Welcome to the video on prisms, area, and volume. This is going to be a very short video introducing you to this shape that you've seen in the past in different contexts, probably as you observe different structures around the world. You will see that a right prism is a prism in which the lateral edges are perpendicular to the base edges. So we have edges on the side and edges on the base, at the base of this particular shape. So a right prism is a prism in which the lateral edges are perpendicular to the base edges at their points of intersection. An oblique prism is a prism in which the parallel lateral edges are oblique to the base edges. They give you examples of this. If you look at your textbook, example 1, they talk about a right hexagonal prism and an oblique pentagonal prism. So just some things to keep in mind with prisms. And then we have a right equilateral triangular prism. So there's some terminology, but the big thing is keep in mind what these definitions are. Of course, feel free to write them in your notebook if you want. And then the formulas, that's very important for this particular chapter. You're going to be using this same principle for most of the chapter, this chapter 9 as a whole. They give you a few theorems, which are also attached to these formulas. So please keep the formulas in perspective. There is a page at the beginning of the book that gives you all the formulas. So as a reference, you should have that page. If you need to, if you don't have it for whatever reason, let me know and we can send you a document, a PDF. So they give you different formulas to use. And so in 9.1, basically, they've explained to you what the different things are, talking about a base, talking about, different issues as far as the sides of these shapes, working with regular polygons. In a sense, some of these shapes have a regular polygon at the base, and you can use that information to basically sketch out and get more sides as you calculate volume and surface area. So keep those things in perspective. Please read through the chapter and then go ahead and do the problems. I mean, one of the main formulas you see is that volume is equal to, so we have volume is equal to length times width times height. You've learned that one before, and that is one that is used in a rectangular prism. So let's keep that in perspective. That's for a right rectangular prism, length times width times height. So whenever you have a formula, how do we do problems that involve formulas? We write the formula, right? Step 1, write the formula. And then step 2, write the values you've been given. So if you've been given the length, write it down. The width, write it down. And the height, write it down. And then step 3, take the values you've been given and plug them in to the formula, right? If you're looking for the volume, let's say it's 5, 4, and 10. You have 5 centimeters. Let's say this is in centimeters, times 4 centimeters times 10 centimeters. And your answer will just be found by multiplying these out. So that's just an example. But the process is the same for most of chapter 9. What is the formula you need? What are the values you've been given? And how do you plug in those values into the formula? That's very important. So please keep that in perspective. So in chapter 9.1, in the exercises, you are dealing with questions about what kind of rectangle, what kind of prism are we talking about? They show you a prism and they ask you, does this appear to be a prism? Is it oblique? Is it a right? Does it have a base that is the relationship between the base and the lateral sides? What kind of relationship do they have? Is it a right or oblique prism? And then they talk about vertices and edges and faces. These are very important definitions that we see in the chapter. So read the chapter and then go ahead and try some of the problems that are before you. I would say the odd problems right now. And then let me know if you have any questions. If you already know how to use the formulas, then again, you might be able to do half of the problems. But I would recommend that overall, when you're doing problems, you're doing the odd problems, and you can actually do, depending on the section, and I'll let you know, we can go with every other odd. If you are comfortable with the concept, then that is okay to do every other odd. So we'll discuss this in more detail as we go through the course, but this would be an example of every other odd. For this particular section, you can do that. And there's only about 44 problems. And so you would be stopping, of course, at number 41. But feel free to do more above and beyond. But please remember that you're spending about an hour on math. and then you're going to do your hour of other subjects or do all your other subjects, then come back if you need to, if you want to, at the end of the day or later on in the day to do more problems. But I really want to encourage you to make sure you do an hour, and if an hour means that you're still here, so you do number 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, and 25, then tomorrow or the next day that you do math, you can complete the remaining problems and then go ahead and start the next section. So it's very important that we build the skill of being accountable and being consistent in keeping ourselves accountable to the task before us. So let me know if you have any questions. 9.1 has to do with prisms. As I said, these are things you've observed in the past, and now you're going to be applying formulas to find surface area, volume, and so on. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.